Shame is a feeling that we all experience at some point in our lives. It's that inner voice that tells us we aren't good enough, that we don't belong, that we failed in some way. It's an emotion that holds us back, limiting our growth, our potential, and our ability to connect with others. It makes us shrink into ourselves, hide our true selves, and put up walls that keep others out. We wear shame like a heavy cloak, dragging us down with its weight. And when we wear it for too long, it becomes part of our identity, something we think we can't escape. But the truth is, we can. Empathy, however, is the antidote to shame. It's the force that can heal us, that can lift us from the darkness of self-doubt and show us the light of connection. When someone sees us, really sees us, our struggles, our imperfections, and still chooses to stand with us, it's a powerful thing. That is the essence of empathy, to meet another in their pain, without judgment, without condemnation. It's not about fixing them, but about making them feel understood, accepted, and valued just as they are. Empathy doesn't erase our flaws, but it helps us embrace them, because it shows us that we are not alone. When we allow ourselves to experience empathy, we begin to let go of the chains that bind us. We stop hiding, stop pretending, and stop running from the parts of ourselves that we've been ashamed of. Instead, we learn to embrace our vulnerability, to see it not as a weakness, but as a part of our humanity that connects us to others. Through empathy, we find a space where we are free to be imperfect, where we can let go of the shame that once kept us small. Shame isolates us, but empathy brings us together. It breaks down the walls we've built, inviting others to be part of our journey, not just as observers, but as companions. When we offer empathy to someone else, we also begin to heal ourselves. By seeing their pain, we are reminded that we are all human, all deserving of kindness, all worthy of love. And in that shared space of understanding, we start to release the shame that tells us we are not enough. In a world where shame is often used to control, to silence, and to diminish, empathy is a revolutionary act. It's the act of seeing someone fully, not as a collection of mistakes or shortcomings, but as a whole, complex and beautiful individual. It's the act of standing in the face of someone's pain and offering them the gift of understanding without judgment. Empathy doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence, for authenticity, for the courage to sit with another in their vulnerability. When we experience empathy, we are reminded that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love and connection. We don't have to hide behind masks of perfection or success. We can simply be. And in that simplicity, in that authenticity, we find freedom. We find the freedom to be ourselves, flaws and all, without the weight of shame holding us back. This doesn't mean that the road to healing is easy. It's not. The grip of shame is strong, and it takes time to release it. But the journey becomes bearable when we are supported by the empathy of others. It's like a lifeline in a sea of doubt, reminding us that we don't have to navigate the storm alone. Every act of empathy, every moment of understanding brings us one step closer to freedom. Empathy teaches us to be kind not only to others, but also to ourselves. It shows us that we don't have to be perfect to deserve love and acceptance. And in that knowledge, we begin to heal. We start to see ourselves with the same compassion we offer to others. We learn to forgive ourselves, to let go of the shame that has kept us stuck for so long. As we begin to offer empathy to ourselves, we also begin to extend it to those around us. We realize that everyone is fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens, and feeling their own shame. And when we can offer empathy to others, we create a space for mutual healing, where everyone is free to be their true selves, without fear of judgment. In this way, empathy becomes a chain reaction. One act of empathy can spark another, creating a ripple effect that spreads through our communities, our families, and our lives. It has the power to transform not only individuals, but entire societies. When we choose empathy over shame, we choose connection over isolation, understanding over judgment, and love over fear. The world needs more empathy. It needs more understanding, more compassion, and more kindness. And when we choose empathy, we are not only healing ourselves, but we are healing the world. We are breaking down the barriers that divide us and building bridges that bring us together. Empathy is the key to a better, more compassionate world, where shame no longer holds us back and where love and acceptance reign. Empathy does not require us to have all the answers. It doesn't ask us to fix the world's problems or to solve someone else's pain. It only asks us to be present, to listen, and to hold space for another person's experience without trying to change it. In that space, something powerful happens. The other person feels heard, seen, and understood, no longer alone with their struggles. That alone can be transformative. When we allow ourselves to show empathy, we not only uplift others, but we uplift ourselves as well. We begin to understand that we too are deserving of the same kindness and understanding that we offer to others. When we are trapped by shame, it clouds our judgment and prevents us from seeing our worth. It tells us we are broken, unworthy, and undeserving of love. But empathy offers us a different lens. It invites us to see ourselves through the eyes of another, to witness our own humanity and flaws without judgment. And when we do this, we discover a new perspective, one where shame doesn't dominate our lives, but where compassion, understanding, and acceptance take root. Shame often stems from the belief that we are not good enough or that we have somehow failed others or ourselves. It festers in the dark corners of our minds, feeding off our insecurities and amplifying our self-doubt. But when we open ourselves to empathy, we begin to see our mistakes and shortcomings not as defining moments of failure, but as opportunities for growth and healing. In this space, we find the freedom to learn from our experiences, to move forward without the weight of guilt or regret holding us back. Empathy helps us see that everyone has a story. No one is immune to suffering, and no one is beyond the reach of shame. But when we listen with empathy, when we offer understanding instead of judgment, we create a safe space for healing to begin. We learn that we are not defined by our past mistakes or by the shame that once held us captive. Instead, we are defined by our ability to rise, to embrace our imperfections, and to continue moving forward with hope and strength. When we offer empathy to others, we also create a space for them to offer empathy to themselves. It's in the act of being understood that we learn to understand ourselves. We realize that we don't have to hide our vulnerabilities or our flaws to be worthy of love and connection. We are enough just as we are. And it is in this recognition that we begin to break free from the grip of shame. It no longer has the power to define us or limit us. As we let go of shame and embrace empathy, we begin to build a new way of relating to ourselves and others. We stop measuring our worth by external standards or by the opinions of others. Instead, we measure our worth by the love and compassion we offer ourselves and the world around us. This shift in perspective is liberating. It allows us to step into our true selves, unburdened by the weight of shame, and to move forward with confidence and purpose. Empathy teaches us that we are all worthy of love and belonging. It reminds us that our mistakes do not define us, but rather our ability to learn, grow, and love ourselves and others. In this truth, we find our freedom. We are no longer bound by the limitations that shame imposed on us. We are free to be our authentic selves, to express our emotions without fear, and to embrace our imperfections as part of what makes us unique and beautiful. The journey from shame to empathy is not always easy, but it is always worth it. It requires courage, the courage to face our pain, to confront our vulnerabilities, and to choose healing over hiding. But when we make that choice, we open the door to transformation. we begin to heal not just ourselves, but the world around us. We become living examples of what it means to live without shame, to live with empathy, and to create a world where love and understanding take precedence over fear and judgment. Every time we choose empathy, we create a ripple effect. That ripple can spread far and wide, touching the lives of those around us in ways we may never fully understand. A simple act of empathy, a kind word, a listening ear, a gesture of understanding, can change the course of someone's day, their week, or even their life. And when we offer empathy to ourselves, we unlock the door to our own healing. Poet Jeremy Simon said, "We learn to forgive ourselves, to accept ourselves, and to embrace ourselves with the same love and compassion in that we offer to others." Empathy also helps us understand that healing is a process. It's not something that happens overnight, but something that happens in small incremental steps. Each time we choose to embrace empathy, whether toward ourselves or others, we are taking a step forward in our journey toward freedom. And each time we release the grip of shame, we are reclaiming our power. We are no longer allowing shame to dictate who we are or how we live. Instead, we are choosing to live with authenticity, vulnerability, and love. In this way, empathy becomes a constant practice. Something we choose every day with every person we encounter, including ourselves. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles and that we are worthy of love and compassion just as we are. And when we offer empathy to others, we create a space for them to feel the same way. We create a world where shame no longer holds us back and where empathy sets us free. When we begin to embrace empathy, we break free from the cycle of self-criticism and judgment that shame traps us in. It's easy to believe that we must hide our flaws and weaknesses, that we must present ourselves as perfect to be accepted. But empathy teaches us a different truth. We are loved not in spite of our imperfections, but because of our humanity. We are all flawed, and it is in our shared vulnerability that we find connection. Through empathy, we discover that it is okay to not have everything figured out. It is okay to be imperfect, because we are all on a journey of growth and healing. One of the most profound lessons that empathy teaches us is the importance of being present with others. So often we rush through life, caught up in our own struggles and distractions, that we forget the power of simply being with someone. When we take the time to truly listen, to offer our full attention without judgment, we create a space for healing. That presence allows others to feel seen, heard, and valued in ways that words alone can't express. It's in this quiet understanding that empathy can work its magic, dissolving the grip of shame and replacing it with a sense of belonging. As we let go of shame and open ourselves to empathy, we start to see the world differently. Instead of focusing on what separates us, we begin to focus on what connects us. We recognize that everyone has their own struggles, their own stories, and their own pain. We realize that we are not alone in our feelings of shame, and that our shared experiences of vulnerability can bring us closer together. Empathy bridges the gaps between us, creating a space where understanding, love, and support can flourish. When we choose empathy, we choose connection over isolation and healing over harm. In the face of shame, we often feel as though we are not worthy of love, kindness, or understanding, but empathy shows us that we are, in fact, more than worthy. We are deserving of love not because we are perfect, but because we are human. Our flaws, our mistakes, and our imperfections are what make us real. And when we allow ourselves to be seen in our true light without shame, we open ourselves up to the possibility of deeper connections with others. We begin to form relationships that are built on mutual understanding and acceptance, relationships that are free from the constraints of judgment and fear. Empathy also teaches us the importance of self-compassion. It's easy to offer empathy to others, but often we struggle to extend the same kindness to ourselves. We are our harshest critics, and we often hold ourselves to standards that we would never impose on others. But when we practice self-empathy, when we treat ourselves with the same love and understanding that we offer to those we care about, we begin to release the grip of shame. We stop beating ourselves up for our mistakes and start seeing ourselves as worthy of compassion, healing, and growth. Self-empathy is not about excusing our behavior or avoiding responsibility, but about recognizing that we are deserving of kindness, especially in our most vulnerable moments. As we cultivate empathy, we begin to understand that our worth is not determined by our accomplishments, our appearance, or our success. Our worth is inherent in our being. We are valuable simply because we exist. And when we realize this truth, we can let go of the need to prove ourselves to others. We no longer have to hide behind masks or seek validation through external measures. We can simply be, and in that simplicity, we find peace. Empathy allows us to see ourselves through the eyes of love and acceptance. And in that vision, we begin to experience true freedom. The more we practice empathy, the more we realize that it's not just about understanding others, but about understanding ourselves. It's about learning to sit with our discomforts, our insecurities, and our pain without rushing to change them. It's about accepting ourselves in our entirety, not just the parts we deem acceptable, but also the parts we want to hide. When we embrace all of who we are with empathy, we free ourselves from the burden of shame. And we stop trying to be something we're not and start accepting the beauty in our flaws, knowing that they are part of what makes us whole. Through empathy, we also learn that healing is not linear. It's not a destination, but a process, one that requires patience, gentleness, and understanding. There will be days when we slip back into shame, when we doubt ourselves or feel unworthy. But empathy teaches us to be gentle with ourselves on those days. It encourages us to give ourselves the same grace we would offer to a friend in need. Healing takes time, and it's okay to not have it all figured out. What matters is that we continue to show up for ourselves and for others, offering compassion in every moment. As we let go of shame and embrace empathy, we become more resilient. We learn that we are not defined by our mistakes or our imperfections. We are defined by our ability to rise, to continue moving forward with love, compassion, and strength. Each time we choose empathy over shame, we build a stronger foundation for ourselves, one that is rooted in acceptance and understanding. And as we strengthen our own foundation, we become a source of support and healing for others, creating a world where empathy reigns and shame no longer holds us back.